to call on our next speaker, Adesoji Ogunjobi. He's a BASEC expert. He's an InfoSec trainer. He's an IS2 instructor who will be taking us the topic IT security governance in application development. So you have the stage, Adesoji Ogunjobi. Welcome.
Well, thank you very much, Demo. I really appreciate. So let me ask you a question. Can everyone hear me very well? Can you hear me clearly? Just indicate to me if you can hear me clearly.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much. Would you allow me to share my screen? Just enable me to.
Yeah, please share.
To share my screen. Okay. Okay, still disabled. Let me sign out and sign in. It's for it to refresh. Just hold on.
Please, let's hold on for him. We'll soon be back. I think you should be able to share now, Adesoji. We can't hear you, Adesoji.
So I said thank you very much, everyone, for joining me at this session. I really appreciate the opportunity to share with OWASP Lagos chapter. And I'd like to say that I want to appeal to you to listen very carefully to what I'm going to share with us, because what I'm going to share with us is influenced a bit by experience, having worked in an organization or having worked in organizations across my 14 years of, having the privilege to work. And so some of the things I'm going to say would help. I'll put it in context, and also it will help you to have certain understanding around why sometimes it is very difficult for application developers to actually have a connect with the business. And this is and it is very important that application developers, not just application developers, but because this is an application, development related team or organization. That's why I'm, focusing on application development. If you're into cybersecurity as well, it is very, very important that you have a connect with the business, because one of the reasons we've had, in my own opinion, one of the reasons we've been having issues with, successful cybersecurity is because there's a disconnect between you know, the between organizations and cybersecurity or application developers or people who work in those domains. There's a disconnect. And this is why it is very difficult for and I'm saying you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Tell your baby to beat her. Don't worry.
Your voice is gone again.
That was right. Somebody muted me. So please, I'd like you, if you're not talking, I'd like you to mute your mic. So this is why there's been a disconnect between there's been a disconnect between governance or senior management in organizations and the likes of cybersecurity departments, the application development departments, and all of that. There's a disconnect, and this is why there's been a challenge for the application development, cybersecurity to have that place in organization where they should be sitting. It is a lot easier for the accounts department and other departments to have their place. Do you understand? With management, and so you may not understand the weight of this thing. You see, the impact of this disconnect is that it is one of the things that is responsible for cybersecurity breaches in organization, whether it is coming from infrastructures you bought or whether it is coming from applications developed in-house. That disconnect. It's just like imagine you and your wife, being at loggerheads. You're not going to make progress. You might make progress, but you're not going to make as much progress as you would if the two of you, are really, really, really connected. And so these are some of the things that I want to bring our attentions to. And I want us to, through this presentation, to have a change of mindset. Do you understand? Because all of these are really sitting in our mind. Somebody might be wondering, what does mindset has to do with application development or secure application development? It has a lot to do with it. And you will see as we go on. So, one of the first thing I'm going to be looking at is, let's look at it. What is governance? Now, what we're going to be talking about here, I'm deviating from technicals. The good thing is that Martin has talked about technicals. You understand what I'm saying? He's talking about, because, see, really, if you want to deliver value to an organization as an IT person, so when I say IT person, I'm referring to all genre of IT, application development, cybersecurity, IT, core IT administrator, whatever it is, but you're playing in the field of information technology, you need to understand governance. And you need, when I say you need to understand governance, you need to understand how the board of directors, you need to understand how senior management think. It is very, very important. So what is governance? Governance is a responsibility of the board of directors and senior management. It is a responsibility. And what does this responsibility entail? The responsibility of the board of directors and senior management summarized is this, to ensure the prosperity of an enterprise. And this, I took this from United Kingdom Institute of Directors definition. And so what it does, so this definition captures everything. It embodies everything that the board of directors, senior management, does in the business. And for your information, it captures what you do. It captures what you do. It captures why you were employed. Whether you are employed as a consultant or whether you are employed as an app developer, for whatever reason you're employed in that organization, the reason you're there is to ensure the prosperity of that enterprise. Now, what is IT security governance? IT security governance is actually a subset of corporate governance. It's a subset of corporate governance. And what you need to understand is that corporate governance, IT security governance has to align with corporate governance. Because you know why? Because technology, be it application development or whatever it is there because of the business. The business is not there because of application development. And I'll tell you one reason. A lot of people have had to argue this with me, and I say to them, yes, you're there because of the business. And they say, if the business cannot exist without us. Who told you that? You're actually wrong. The worst that would happen is that the business will revert back to what? To paper-based what? Way of doing business. It will slow them down, but they still would achieve their objective. So get that into your mind. Yes. The technology people, be it cybersecurity, be it IT, core IT, be it application development, you're all there to help what? To automate. You're only using technology to automate business processes. And for your information, those business processes actually existed on paper before the advent of technology. So don't feel too important. Don't feel that the business cannot exist without you. It's a lie. It's a lie. The business can actually do without you. The worst that would happen is that the business would be slowed down, but in the long run, they would achieve their objective. So what is IT security governance? IT security governance is also the responsibility of the board of directors, because IT security governance is a subset of corporate governance. It's a subset of corporate governance because whatever thing IT security is going to do has to align with corporate governance. It is based on the objective that has been agreed upon at the corporate governance level, which is board of directors and senior management. The board of directors have a responsibility to ensure the prosperity of the enterprise, like we saw before. Information security is a subset of enterprise governance that provides, now listen to this very carefully, that provides strategic direction. In what direction should IT security go? Make sure objectives of IT security is achieved. Manages IT security risk and uses what? The organizational IT security resources responsibly and monitor the success or failure of what? The enterprise program. Now, all of these that I've said, where does application development falls? It falls here because application development, whether you're using OWASP principle, OWASP framework, OWASP methodology, it all falls under what? Information security governance. Or you might say, okay, it doesn't fall under information security governance. It falls under information technology governance, because these are all application development, or secure application development is actually a subset of what? Information technology. You know why? Now, let's not be too technical. That is where a lot of IT people miss it. When the business is looking at you, they see it as information technology. They see it as IT. If I'm wrong, please correct me. They see it as IT. In fact, having worked, across the years that I've worked, if there's in organizations where where I've worked and they develop application in-house, do you know that they don't understand the difference between IT support or IT infrastructure and the development team? There have been several times that I've gone to work, respond to several things, and they will call me, they say, Sojiko, please, this application is not working. And those applications were built in-house. And the only people who could respond to that issue are the devs team. They will come, they say, Sojiko, please come and help us. You know why? Because they don't see any difference between infrastructure, be it infrastructure or whatever it is you're calling them, and the application development team. As far as the business is concerned, they're all the same. And we need to think like that. Because if you don't see it like that, you see, you're going to continue to have problems with the business. And it's going to be difficult for you to find your place in the business. And what would eventually happen is that these are the things that, and when you can't find your place in the business, you find it very difficult to understand business objective. And when you find it very difficult to understand business objective, you find it very difficult to apply application development techniques to build applications that can help the business prosper, that can keep the business from being breached. I hope you're understanding the connect. Because if you don't understand business objective, you're not gonna build up. It's just like two people at a loggerhead. You might be living in the same house, but there's a disconnect between the two of you. And I'm gonna show something later that I believe some of us would have seen. Do you understand? Maybe not everyone. and I'll tie it to all of this. Now, this definition that I'm giving is actually from ITGI Institute, IT Governance Institute. It's from IT Governance Institute. And it is very important, that we understand this definition, because you might be in this meeting right now. You don't know in what direction your career is headed. You might be an application development person, but somewhere in the future, you're going to be the director of technology for a company, whether in Nigeria or out of Nigeria. You need to understand it like that, because once you get to that level, in fact, for you to even get to that level, you need to think like this. You need to see things from the viewpoint of governance, the organization, the business. If you see things from the viewpoint of technology, you're going to be in conflict with the business, and the business will throw you out. I've seen organizations where heads of departments were taken from the accounting department. Actually, they took an accountant, not just one. And I'm very sure the people in this, in this meeting, in this webinar would have seen it too, where they took somebody from procurement, took somebody from accounting to come and head IT. Heading somebody who literally, direct, controls, writes IT strategy. You know why? Because it's a disconnect. Because they're like, oh, this IT guy doesn't even understand our language. And they get to determine your fate. So it is very important that you understand IT security governance or IT governance, whichever way you want to look at it, and understand what corporate governance is or governance. Now, enterprise, see, there was something that I said before. I said that the business does not exist for IT and its, sub-units and all of that. IT exists for the business. And so what that also means is that with the adoption of IT comes the adoption of, what I meant by adoption of IT is, with the adoption of technology comes the adoption of what? Technology risk. And so that is why you would see that at the helm of, managing risk, technology risk is enterprise risk. They did not put technology risk. It is enterprise risk. Because, you know why? Because enterprise risk speaks the language of the business. So they got enterprise risk, to manage technology risk, in addition to other risks that affect the business. You have operations risk, you have things like liquidity risk, you have all kinds of risk. In addition to that, you have information risk. So at that level, what they had to do, what enterprises do, is to get enterprise risk to manage all of this risk. And part of the risk that is managed is information risk. Now, what is information risk? Information risk is actually the risk to confidentiality of information, availability of information, and integrity of information. And now, that's a summary of information risk. Now, let me go in a little bit deeper. So what it means is that the business does not want a report, that is faulty, or a report that lacks integrity to go to the business, to the board of directors. So maybe there's a financial report you've done and you got it from your technology. Now, if that report has flawed information or has error in it, and you send it to the board of directors, you're misleading them. The board of directors and senior management are going to make, they will take the wrong decision, or they'll make the wrong decision. So one of the ways that this risk can happen, or errors can be introduced into things like that, is through, compromise like virus, ransomware, human error, what's it called, insider threat, and all of that. So that kind of risk, those risks has to be managed through what? Information risk management. Now, where IT security comes in, which is a brother or a sister to application security, is because of the use of technology. Because of the use of technology. Now that's how you see IT security. In some books, you will see IT security, or you would see it described as information security. They're referring to the same thing. Now, but here, if you take a closer look at it, you will see that in processing information, you employ technology, be it printer, be it scanner, be it your telephone, be it your laptop, be it your server, be it your wide area network, be it the application codes that the people that we write in, the developers write and all of that. That's technology, because programming language are actually technology. The technology, you understand that? The technology, they were invented to solve problems. You understand what I'm saying? So now that risk has to be managed at IT security level. And that's why you're seeing IT security management. What am I trying to say here? That enterprise risk actually use information risk management. Enterprise risk actually manages information risk through IT security risk. That's what I'm trying to say. And we need to understand it like that. And in managing IT security risk, they are managing application development risk, because as far as the business is concerned and all of this categorization, application development is actually part of IT risk. And what sits at the top of all of these here, what sits here at the top here, what sits at the top here is actually corporate governance. And if you look at it, you would see that by the time, IT security is reporting, information risk is reporting, enterprise risk is reporting to the board of directors or senior management, they don't use technical terms. And do not forget, like I mentioned at the bottom here, data or information is the new gold. And so you cannot afford to have error in the information you're presented to the business to make decisions, or the underpinning infrastructure or the supporting infrastructure, like your application, your hardware, and all of that. You can't afford, them to have errors in them, because it's going to lead the business. It's going to lead. The eventual effect is that the business, in the person of the board of directors, senior management, are going to be led astray. In fact, let me tell you straight on. I've been in a board meeting, and this is not funny at all. Let me tell you what happened. I've been in a board meeting where, a head of finance actually submitted a report to the board of directors, and only for them to discover that there was an error. Let me tell you what eventually happened. The person who prepared that, I don't know what that financial statement or whatever it is that they sent to the board of directors, the person was actually fired. I'm not kidding. The person was fired because the CFO was embarrassed. The person was fired. Because, to the board of directors, if you've been in board meetings, it's not where you go to smile. Because that is where the fate of the business is decided. So one of the things that they said, imagine having to send that statement, to regulators, because sometimes you send some of this statement to regulators, you're going to be leading them astray, and regulators will not take things lightly at all. So what am I trying to say here? That for the people in this meeting, if you're in this webinar, and you want to be able to build secure applications, you want to be able to deliver value to an organization, you need to have the mindset of what? Of IT security governance, which is a reflection of the mindset of what? Of corporate governance. You need to understand that you're there for the business. The business is not there for you. You need to understand the language of the business, because that's the only way you can interface with them successfully. Now, let's look at this definition. And in the course of the meeting, there was something that Martin Knobloch said, and I had to quickly put it in my presentation. Maybe you guys didn't observe it, or you didn't hear it. There was something that said, it said development processes are very expensive. True, they're very expensive. Maybe let me shed a bit of light on that. Development process does not only take, when you say it's expensive, you're talking about in terms of finance and in terms of time, in terms of energy. Developers, you guys are developers in this, and I've worked with developers. It takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of, it takes a lot of thinking for you to build a product. It takes time. It takes resources, because It's if you're full-time, if you're a full-time employee of an organization, the organization is paying you. If you're a consultant, the organization is paying you. That is why it is expensive. That's why you can't afford to, make unnecessary errors, and go back to the business, or you can't afford to have flaws in the application you built. If you go and ask Microsoft what it cost them when they released Windows Vista, when they released it, and when they released Windows 8, and they had to, change, how the desktop looked like. Go and ask Microsoft. There was an article that it actually cost them a lot. They almost lost the market. And that was what led to the advent of what? The Windows 7 that came out. Do you understand? So, and that was what led to them. You see that they retained that format or that structure or that architecture in Windows 10. So development processes are very expensive. And so you can't afford not to be, not to deliver value to the business. You can't afford not to deliver value to the business. Now, I know we all know I know we have professionals in this class. Please do not feel embarrassed. I'm not trying to define what application development. I'm not trying to insult your intelligence. But the reason I put this definition here is because I want to tie it to something. And this is just a very simple definition, which is the process of automating business processes using technology. That is what application development is. And I was trying to tie it back to letting us know that let's not feel too important, thinking, the business cannot, be without us. It's not true. We need to look at things from the viewpoint of the business. And at the times we live in, because we're automating a lot of things, we're exposing a lot of things, the internet, and there's also Internet of Things, there's operational technology for industries, there's artificial intelligence, there's, all of these technologies that are growing. A lot of these things are pioneered by you guys, by the developers, by the application developers. And that's why, frankly speaking, I have a lot of respect for developers. I'm not a developer. I think I remember when I wanted to get into technology, I tried it and it just did not work for me at all. So, but the thing is, at the times we live in, we need to begin to develop application, secure applications. You know why? Do you know why? Because application developers, you guys actually are first line of defense in the business. You're the first line of defense. Now, there's a framework that was released by IITA, talking about how to, respond to risk within a business. And IITA says, they propose what we call 3 lines of defense. What you're seeing here, 3 lines of defense. You have the first line of defense being, one of them being IT governance, IT control, information security, as you can see here. Information security, or what is also known as cybersecurity. And if you look at this, you will see that application development falls here. Whether it is you fall under IT, or this is where you fall, because you build that application. And there's a second line of defense which has to do with risk, management, compliance, and all of that, where the second line of defense keeps an eye on the first line of defense to ensure that the first line of defense are doing what they should do. Then you have the third line of defense, the internal audit or the external audit that comes at the end of the year. Now, let me ask a question. Has anyone in this, and I'm very sure it would have crossed your mind, do you know why the business actually requires that an external audit be done? Let me tell you frankly, in plain language, it is because they don't trust you. They don't trust us. That's why, in addition to having financial audits done, they also do technology audit. Forget the fact that they tell you that, it's because, financial data is underpinned or supported by technology. Yes, it is supported by technology. But the thing is that you do reports to board of directors, you do reports to management, you do say maybe quarterly reports to board of directors during board meeting, or you do monthly reports to senior management within the business. Now they'll take it and all of that. But at the end of the year, they get somebody who is a neutral entity, somebody who they think that cannot be influenced to come and look at the whole process and check what you have reported to tell them whether or not you're saying the truth. The people in this webinar, you would agree with me that it sounds like you don't trust us, and that's what it is. That's what it is, because you've done reports to them. They said, oh yeah, and everything is working. Everything is actually working, but they still get an external entity to come and verify the process. And do you know something? Do you know that if your auditor raises an exception against you, you're in for it? It doesn't matter what report you've submitted from January up until November. They don't care. Those exceptions that were raised by the external auditor is more weighty. They believe those exceptions more than they believe the things that you've said. Even if that exception just happened as a result of a technology that that was deployed in November, a month prior to when the internal auditors came in December or January to start auditing you. So what am I saying? They believe those people more than they believe you. Now, but this is where I'm going to. The app developers, we need to start thinking security. We need to start factoring security into what's into application development process. And I want to encourage the people in this meeting. I want to encourage us, take time to go learn about, if you haven't, to go learn about how to integrate security into application development, because I'll tell you what, that is the future. That is the future of application development. There's been a lot of issues, if you've been following the news and all of that, there's been a lot of things going on, issues here and there. Just of recent, the Senate, if you heard of the California water, breach and all of that, the Senate had to call them, and that's how it's happening across the board globally. A lot of governments are now interested in cybersecurity issues, and you don't want them to now be able to point the cybersecurity, pin the issue to developers, and let it not be that you're one of those people who built that application. It's likely to affect your market if you're a consultant, or it's likely to affect your career in the long run as an in-house developer, especially if you have not followed what is called due diligence and due care. You've not followed the processes that needs to be followed for you to securely build an application. There was something that Martin said. He said a documented, structured approach to application development is better than an ad hoc, unstructured. It says something like that, and it's absolutely correct. One of the things that is advocated in secure application development is for you to follow a structured approach. As we speak, I'm doing a I did a third-party assessment for an organization, and I'm drawing up policies for them. And one of the policies that I'm drawing up for them is actually a secure software development lifecycle policy that the developer in-house has to follow. And guess what? The developers in-house have started working, but they don't have this policy in place. But it is very important that they have it, because an organization that they intend to work with is asking for it. So please, what I'm trying to pull out from this particular slide that you're looking at is that the application developers, you're actually a first line of defense. And so what it means is that in your developing applications, you need to think security. Yes, I agree that the IT security people might want to slow you down. You see, that is where interpersonal relationship comes in. Because if you don't have interpersonal relationship between IT security and application developers, and you wash your dirty linen outside, the business is going to see all of you as people who are not serious. And because they're not going to see you, this is application development, this is IT security, and that is IT administration. They see all of us as IT, information technology department, or as information technology, even if you're working as a consultant. So there has to be that interpersonal relationship. These are, the soft skills that a lot of, IT security people, application developers don't have, that I've seen across my period of, let me not exaggerate, so maybe 10 years of working. So we're first line of defense. And so we need to ensure that we protect the application we're building, protect the business in such a way as to help the business prosper. If you build an application that helps the business prosper, they will recognize you. They will recognize you. Now, not just building, you build an application, you also have a rapport with the business. They will recognize you. Now, so this slide that I'm showing to you is actually talking about a 0-day market. I'm sure some of us are aware that there's a market where they sell vulnerabilities on the internet, the dark web. And for your information, I want us to go and read this up. Just take your time to read this story. Governments of nations patronize these people. Do not be deceived to think that these people are going to go out of business. They will not go out of business. There are people who make millions from selling vulnerabilities. Their job actually is that they always look for vulnerabilities in applications. They have myriads of applications that they just buy, and they take time to look for vulnerabilities in those applications. And when they discover those vulnerabilities, they look for very common vulnerabilities or commonly used applications like Windows and all of those top, high-end applications. They look for vulnerabilities in them, and once they see vulnerabilities in them, they sell them. Governments of nations patronize them. And when I say government of nations, I'm talking about government of advanced nations. They patronize these people. And so, all of this process actually have become threats to organizations. And this is why, organizations like OWASP are advocating that will follow secure, coding methodology. It is very, very important. It is very, very important. And this quote that you have here, I took it from this article. It says there was always a way, so long as humans are responsible for writing codes and designing, building, and configuring machine. Sabian is one of those guys who has worked for the US government, who now runs his own organization. When he was working for the US government, he actually helped the US government to buy vulnerabilities that they use to exploit, other nations that they have interest in. They use them, or they use those vulnerabilities for espionage, to get into the people's system, spy, and get information that ordinarily they would not have access to. Second team knew there would be mistakes. Now, there will be mistakes, but what we always need to do, let's follow secure methodology to minimize these mistakes. Finding those flaws was only half the battle. It's a battle finding flaws. And so you need to make it harder for these people to find these flaws, especially in applications that you are building. The other half was writing and honing the exploit codes that would give government agencies a reliable, clean entry point. So why I'm bringing this to us is to let us see that the applications that you're developing is very, very of interest to everyone. Do not think that the application you're developing, for companies, whether the company is sitting in one corner of the globe, that is where they may not, that you think they're not seen. That's not true. As long as that application at one point or the other is going to be on the internet, directly or indirectly through another application, we need to ensure that we follow secure coding methodology. And following secure coding methodology means that we need to understand, we need to see things from the viewpoint of the business, from the viewpoint of governance. If you understand things from the viewpoint of governance, just like you want to build a house, the builder is not going to tell you how to build the house. You will be the one to tell the builder how you want the house built. Imagine you want to build a house and the builder or the contractor is telling you this is how you must do. What would you do? You kick them out. That's the same thing. So we need to understand that if we want to help organizations, achieve secure postures, and if we want to help organizations, to prosper, to remain, for a very long time, if we want to help organizations, and that organizations that prosper and is growing would also have the opportunity to employ people and cause several families to also prosper and have jobs at hand. Organizations that are attacked, that goes into oblivion or extinction, would throw people into the job market. And what would happen is that poverty would increase. People won't have jobs to do, and people will not want to put their money in such an organization. So I'm trying to show us the ripple effect of what you as an application developer do in that your corner. What you do in that corner is very, 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 very important. It has weight, it has impact, it has effect, and you need to see it like that. Yes, maybe the politics of the organization is not letting you come up to the level where you should. What you need to do is that you need to begin to see things from the viewpoint of governance. How does the business perceive application security? What does the business want from application security? How do they want you to help them? Not how you want to help them. You need to understand how they want you to help them so you can use your tool to be able to help them. Remember, application developers or application development does not exist for the business. The application development exists for the business. The business does not exist for application development. So what are we saying? Application development is the first line of defense. We need you in order to be able to deliver enterprise prosperity. Your mindset should be to want to create, develop applications from the viewpoint of business objective, risk to business, resource optimization, and all of that. By doing that, we can outwit the enemy together and prosper together, because application developers, in addition to IT security, are first line of defense for organizations. So with this, I'd like to say thank you very much. This marks the end of this presentation. I'd like to think I had to speak through it quickly because I want to be able to beat time, and I also want us to get value from this. So this marks the end of this presentation. I'm open to questions. Let me have your questions. Let me have your thoughts. If you have a contrary opinion, a contrary thought, please just go ahead and say it, and let's look at it together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Adesoye. That was a fantastic one. And if you have any question for Adesoye, please kindly type it in the chat box so that he attends to that. We've actually seen how application development is first level of defense, and how the business needs application development, how they need to put everything in order. So if you have any question, please kindly type it. Is available to answer you. It's like everyone actually understood you. They enjoyed your lecture, and I don't think there's any question. Does anyone still have a question to ask? Oh, okay, fantastic. So, Adesoye, do you have any one or two words that you would like to tell us before we put an end to your lecture?
Okay. Thank you very much. I'd like to just briefly let me just reintroduce myself. So yes, my name is Adesoye. Please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. My connection is, my LinkedIn profile name is Adesoye Ogunjobi, which is what you're seeing here. I do trainings. I'm a CISSP ISAP. Like you introduced, ISC Square instructor. I train across the board, the journey of certifications from CISSP to CISA to CISM to CDPSC, the latest certification on privacy, CGIT governance, IT governance, ISO 27001. I do all of those trainings, and I look forward to connecting with us. If you have any questions around, IT security, governance, please feel free to reach out to me. And thank you very much. And I look forward to being. I actually would like to say that I thank OWASP for the opportunity to come and do this presentation. And I'd love to be a part of OWASP, because I remember in my CISSP, in my CCSP, so I also do CCSP, Certified Cloud Security certification from ISC Square. I remember CCSP, OWASP is very heavy in CCSP. Is a core thing. In fact, it's part of the exam question. I remember having read OWASP Top 10 for 2013 and OWASP Top 10 for 2017. So OWASP is part of, is an organization that is large, that is very, very much respected by ISC Squared, an organization that an organization that I'm a member of. So I'd like to continue to be a part of OWASP, and I look forward to, future partnership and, being a part of this organization. The name of my organization is Carver-Doyen Consulting. And I say thank you very much for this opportunity. God bless us all.
Thank you very much for coming for our event this afternoon. We truly appreciate you. You do from your very squeeze time. You had time for us to deliver this topic for us. We truly enjoyed your discourse this morning. So I know whenever we call you next time, you also avail yourself to be around. I'm very sure about that.
Absolutely.
So Mr. Adesoji is on LinkedIn. You can connect with him. He can give you the necessary training that you need on application security, governance, or any other security training that you want. And Mr. Adesoji, you are welcome. You are already part of OWASP. So as time goes on, I will be sharing one or two things with you in respect to that. So thank you very much. So have a wonderful weekend. And to every other people in the audience, let me share my screen. Sorry, I was having some sharing issues. So we thank you for attending this event. If you want to be part of the OWASP OWASP group, our WhatsApp group is down below. The meetup group too. Then we're also on WhatsApp, on Twitter, I mean. Then if you want to contact me, the number is there. We have 3 OWASP Lagos chapter leaders, which you can as well contact. You can check on owasp.org. Our chapter page is there for any necessary information. And if you need any information about OWASP, please kindly contact us. You can join the group, and we are always ready to assist you. In a few weeks or months from now, we'll be holding another event, and we'll surely contact you to be part of this event. So we truly appreciate the time that you gave this event, and do have a wonderful weekend and a wonderful week ahead. Thank you very much. So I will be sending those materials to everybody later, those that applied through the link and those that dropped their emails here. So I'm going to send it later. Thank you very much.